But if you're going to shoot Colin Kaepernick in a dashiki surrounded by kids recreating the Muhammad Ali image, what you can do for diversity and inclusion is say, you know what, we love Martin's work. Is there a black photographer that we think that can shoot this work?
Because he'll understand the nuances behind it better.
Yes, but the problem is these art buyers probably don't believe or think that black photographers are up to the task of doing it, either with know-how and knowledge, because again, we generally cannot afford to play in this space. So how many black photographers do you know that are shooting, magazine covers for these top magazines? They're like, okay, we want to shoot, King Magazine might have a black photographer from the hood or from whatever. Be like, oh yeah, get your camera, we're shooting King Magazine today. Get some like urban photographer, shoot this, you're good. But Rolling Stone, Vice, even Essence hires white photographers. Ebony hires white photographers.
I didn't know what it was, but first time I saw Belly.
Yes, Belly the movie.
Yeah. I was like, there's something different about the way I didn't know shit about photography,
right? Or how it was shot, or
nothing.
Right.
But it was something different about the way it looked,
right?
And then years later, with Insecure, and also with what's the name of the movie? Moonlight.
Get Out. Moonlight. Yeah.
I was like, okay, this reminds me of Belly.
Okay.
The way it was shot and the images and the textures and everything. And then I read somewhere that it had to do with lighting. Yeah. That they don't usually have with white videographers or directors or whatever you want to call it, and also makeup.
Yes, those are two important factors.
And I remember seeing, like, for example, naked bodies or whatever, and it just looks so much better than the black bodies. It looks so much better than they usually do in regular films or whatnot.
Exactly. So the reason for that is that the director of photography on Moonlight, I believe they're not black. Mm-hmm. But with Barry Jenkins' guidance, he set the groundwork on how it's supposed to look in terms of the way it's colored and the way it looks. The thing is, our skin has a shine to it. Mm-hmm. And usually when you get on sets, makeup artists, the first thing they do is they grab the powder to tone it down.
So it doesn't shine.
Yeah. Barry explicitly said, I want that shine. So having a black director that understands this is what makes those colors look so amazing afterwards. Mm-hmm. Being a black man, you recognize it. Yeah. Instead of just saying, oh, it's beautifully shot, you recognize the nuances in terms of like, this feels and looks different. So it's understanding that you go a lot of these sets, a lot of the crew's all white. Yeah. And if you're black, they don't understand your hair texture. They don't understand how to style your hair, how to put makeup on you, or any of that stuff. They just like, okay, we don't want him to look too dark. Let's just throw powder on him. Let's just tone down his shine. Let's just, you know what I'm saying? And they use foundation, different things to kind of bring up the highlights on your face. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just give you a little anecdote. When Kodak entered the film market, they designed film to, it was I don't want to go too technical, but it was something called a Shirley card. Shirley was a model that they use to kind of test all your film on. Okay. And Shirley was a white woman. Mm-hmm. So they would design all your film based around Shirley. Now, they realized that they had a problem only, not because Shirley was white, they had a problem when furniture companies and chocolate companies would contact them and say, hey, listen, I used your film on a photo shoot, but I can't tell the difference between if my table is walnut or if it's whatever type of other wood. Yeah. So there was no difference. They couldn't tell because everything would just be like a black dot. Yeah. So that's when Kodak decided, I think in the late 60s or late 50s, to start adjusting their film so that chocolate companies can be like, this is dark chocolate, this is milk chocolate. And that's when film started really being made for us, so to speak. But it was the corporate interests and not the people interests. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these products you probably heard it when people try to play NBA 2K or whatever. You're playing it on your Xbox, that they had when they have the create your own character video camera, and it can never read black faces. So that they weren't optimized for us as a people or a skin complexion, because they had nothing else to compare it to. They were comparing it to other white people. Okay, if in order for our camera or light to read this person's face, they have to be at this type of amount of light on their face, which would be a white person. So those are the reasons why we've been left out of the conversation. So that's why when movies like Moonlight and stuff like that come out, you're like, or even Insecure, you're like, wow,
something's different.
We look amazing. Something's different, and because they understand that
they embrace the melanin instead of
instead of trying to like lighten the melanin. You see covers of Beyonce, whatever, on a cover of a magazine. You're like, yo, she looks so whitewashed. Is because not necessarily the photographer blasted her light, but the retoucher is probably white. And he's probably like, something doesn't look right here. She's a bit dark in the face. Let me make her lighter. And I'm not saying they're doing it out of ill intent. It's just that the way systematically we've been trained to analyze beauty, it was from the standards of the white gaze. So that's why everything is based around the white gaze.